Hello everyone, so happy you can join me in my studio, and I hope you're all ready to create a journal. Yay! Okay, so before I get started and jump right into a tutorial, there's just a few things that I wanted to go over before I got started. Now, all of you, I'm hoping, did receive an additional email with extra downloads. These had extra ephemera that I ended up using in the project. And here is a couple of those extras that you should have received, along with one other one that was of a vintage lady. And I didn't print that one out because I'm going to show you here in a little bit how I printed that particular one out. And then, of course, you just want to make sure that, you have your album out. The junk pack, we'll be working with that in this section, as well as these architectures, and then your foiled cardstock. So you want to make sure that, you have all of your kit printed out, that you have those extras printed out, and have these items ready for the first part of the tutorial. Okay, some extra things that you might also want to include. These are not necessary, but you know me, I love to embellish. So you might want to add in some extra trims, beads, broken jewelry, found object jewelry, whatever you might have lying around would be great, as well as some buttons, more lace trim, pearl trim, and then some charms and some blank tags. Now these are the 7 Gypsy market tags that I'll be using, but you could use any blank tags. You can easily create these. I think you can even get free templates of tags, and you can cut out file folders to make your own tags if you'd like. And then lastly, I will be using some of my favorite stamps, which you can also do. The alphabet stamps are really useful, as well as any tea related or floral would also work really nicely in this journal. And then of course you're going to want your distress inks, your oxides, and the chalker that I included in your kit. So with that, I will go ahead and we'll begin the first part of the lesson. Okay, so for this first part of the lesson, what I'm going to do is do an overview of how I created my first pages, and then I will go through and show you a step-by-step process of how I did that, so you can sit back, listen to the music, and enjoy creating. So for the first page, in your album, when you open it up, your album is going to look like this, as follows. And you're going to see that there's a postcard and there's this envelope. So you can go ahead and open the rings and slide the postcard out from your album and set that off to the side. We will be using this later. Go ahead and pull out your envelope, and we'll be working off of this to start off with. So basically what I did on this envelope, it's quite simple. I took my ephemera sheet, and this was the extras that you had received, and I cut out this frame and this card, and I cut out the center of the frame. After I cut them out, I started with the frame, and I glued down the left side and the top, making sure that I only put glue down on the top and left side, so that I would be able to create this pocket and slide my card through. Then I took one of the Architectures, the perfume bottle, and I left part of the middle backing on there so it would not stick down onto the page, so the card would be able to slide through. And the actual only sticky parts that I left was the top part of the bottle and the bottom part. And I did back it with glue just to make sure that the adhesion was really good. After that, I took one of the ephemera circles, and I will show you how I cut it to shape, and I glued that on the inside of the perfume bottle. Next, I just added in some embellishments. Here I have some charms and a broken piece of jewelry that I added. And then I have these paper flowers with fabric and a rhinestone inserted in the middle that I had added to them, as well as some pearl and trims off to the side. And basically that is how I created my front of this envelope. Now on the next page, this was the other extra you should have received, and what I did is I had printed it on tracing paper. You could do this on tracing paper, you could do this on vellum, and then I created my own washi tape, which I will show you how to do, and I adhered that to the side so you could flip the page over and you could add in journaling if you like, or photos, you know, just you could get creative with this space if you so choose. So for the back of the envelope, basically what I did, it's quite simple. I just fussy cut out some of the ephemera to create this little pocket here. I cut out one of the journal cards. This came from the junk pack that I received. Now you may not have this in your junk pack, but you should have something similar that you could use. And then I added in some of the tissue paper from my junk pack as well. To create my pocket here, I just used some muslin and I used my Distress Oxide to distress it a bit. I grunged up some lace, added some buttons, and I created this little pocket here and then here, and added in my journaling cards. At the very top, this section here, I applied some fabric just to give it, I like working with different textures, so I wanted that fabric look, and I wanted it to tie in with some of the washi tape that I had created to coordinate with this page. And again, I will show you how I did this in the video. There is the first part of the journal. I tried to keep it pretty simple. There are some things later on that I'll be covering, more mixed media projects that might be a little more challenging, but I really wanted to show you guys how I go about creating a journal. To do some of the things that I show you later on, I hope that you do just kind of take that leap and have fun creating, even if your journal doesn't turn out exactly as mine. You may not even like some of the things that I do, and you might want to, you know, put your own style to it. That's also great. The main thing is here just to have fun and kind of show you my process on how I create my journals. So with that, I will go ahead and I will start the video tutorial. I hope you guys all enjoy this. I hope you have a great time. I look so forward to hearing your feedback. Please send me an email. Let me know how you are liking the video tutorials. Please let me know if you have any suggestions, and let's begin. Okay, you guys, so you're having fun? I sure hope so. Now, I noticed when I went to do the video editing, the top part of the envelope did not get in the video, so I just wanted to go over with you some of the things that you may not or were not able to see in the video. When I placed the flowers down, you saw where I placed the one flower down on the bottle, but what was cut from the video is where I placed the other flower at the corner of the frame, being sure not to get glue to where this would cause this to stick to the frame. So just at the very top there is where I placed the flower. I placed some pearl trim up at the top, and I think basically everything else was caught in the video. The broken jewelry that I used here I placed under that flower, so the chain would have something to adhere to, and that's how I did that. And basically everything else, I believe, and I'm hoping you were able to see in the video. If you do have any questions, you got lost somewhere, send me an email and I'm more than happy to help you through that. Now, on the second part of the envelope on the back side, this I believe is pretty much where everything was left off. And so some of the things that I just want to go over in further detail was the lace trim that I used here. Basically, what I had done as far as grunging it up is I just took my dauber with some of the Vintage Photo distress ink, and then I just, you know, dabbed it in there, and I went over the lace on a separate surface, you know, just kind of went over the top of it. And I got some heavy edge marks here, which I thought kind of added to it, but it's far from perfect. It was just to kind of grunge it up. And then I added 2 wooden buttons that I threaded the holes with some embroidery thread, and then glued them down onto the trim. Also, here at the bottom of the envelope, which I did not have in the video, I just added another one of those paper flowers with the fabric and rhinestone. So moving on, I'm going to show you what I had, what you guys didn't see in the camera, where I said this is not in the camera, so don't pay any attention because things would change. So on this other side now, it looks totally different than what you saw in the video, and that was just me working through the journal, trying to figure out exactly, you know, what I was going to do. And rather than have you guys try to start something and then tear it apart because I changed my mind, I avoided all that. And so that's why, you know, if you just follow along with the instruction and the steps and not try to pay attention to anything that I'm not showing instruction on, hopefully, you know, you'll be able to follow along easily and it doesn't provide too much confusion for you. Okay, at the top here, I just had the journal tag, and I inserted these brads, which I got at Hobby Lobby. Most of the crafts that I did, the trim and the buttons and all of that did come from Hobby Lobby. And I will show you. These were the brads that I'm using. They're the antique flower brads by Spare Parts Paper Studio, and these are great to pick up from Hobby Lobby. You can get them like 50% off when they're on sale, so they end up being a couple dollars, and I think they're just really pretty brads to use in your projects. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm still gonna focus on this side here. I did originally have this adhered to the right side of my envelope, so it was attached, it was glued down, and then I pulled it off, and that's where you saw the ripped sections of the envelope, and this is what I pulled off. So what you guys should have received is your bonus sheet of ephemera, and when you print this out, you'll have these 2 antique signs, which you're going to want to cut out. And then what I did is I just took some of that border from the tag page of the Tea Rose Cafe design. I just took 2 of those and cut those out, so I'd have a front and a back. And then I took some muslin to back it with. So I'm going to just kind of show you how I put all this together here. Alright, so I have my 2 borders cut, the 2 signs, and my piece of muslin. Basically what I did is I took and I distressed my edges. I distress my edges on everything. I do not like white edges at all. I distress everything. So I distressed the edges of the borders and the antique signs. And then after doing that, I took my 2 borders and placed them. If you hold them up to the light, you can see where each is positioned. And then I took and I used my sewing machine and I stitched down this side. And then after stitching it on there, and if you don't have a sewing machine to stitch it on with, then you can just glue it down, or you could just take needle and thread and create some stitch marks through there. After stitching it, then I took my antique signs and placed them together. And I wanted to make sure that you have your antique signs going the right, you want to make sure that they're going the right direction. So when you flip it, if you want it to read this way, you can have it this way. If you want it to read this way. I just kind of kept that in mind when I was positioning it on how I wanted it to look on each side. So then I placed another stitch going down, and this one, as you can see, my stitching is quite horrible. I used my mom's sewing machine and I had it threaded all wrong. So my stitch is absolutely hideous. I do not sew, you guys. I'm just, one lady criticized me horribly for the stitching in one of my albums, and I felt horrible. Maybe I should take some sewing lessons, I don't know. But anyway, you get the point. I just stitched along the edge here, and then I finished it off with some buttons that I actually thread into the corner section, of the muslin. Just threaded that through. So that's basically how I created that. You can do it differently. This is how I work, you guys. I just kind of experiment. I don't really sit down and go, oh, this is what I'm going to make. I grab stuff. I grab ephemera and fabric, and I have buttons lying around and all sorts of embellishments, and I just kind of put things together, and I hope I come up with some sort of idea, to create a section of a page or signature. So my idea here now is, after you have created this piece, is I'm thinking I want this black section here. I want it to go right inside. I didn't glue down. I should have mentioned this, and this is why I'm hoping you guys are watching the video first, the sections first, before you actually go through and do this. I'm also going to try and remember to make a note in the video to not glue down the left side of the lace. I had to pull mine off because I had already glued it down, and this is how I work. Again, I end up tearing things apart and changing my mind. It's all part of my process. So I think I'm just going to take my sewing machine again and stitch this on. Do I want to do that? Let's see, I don't think I can do that because I have all this trim. So actually I'm just going to glue, this section on like so, and then I have this black antique sign, which is, you know, bringing in some of the color from the image on the other side of the page. And then as you flip it over, you will have this on the other side, which I really like the look of that. So I think I'm going to go ahead and, my Brad's getting caught there on the other page. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down just to, oh, this album is so big, it's really hard to get it in the camera. So I'm going to glue this down to the left side of my envelope, like so. Alright, so I think I'm just going to start with placing glue down here and then just place it, and then I'll add glue to the top section once I'm sure I have it placed properly, so it's showing correctly on both sides. Now I'm just going to kind of look and make sure we're okay on the other side. Okay, and once I have that position, I'm going to just go ahead and place glue down on the remaining top half here. And I'm just checking the other side to make sure it's all lining up. All right. And I think I'm gonna call it good right there. Now, you know, you guys can decide if you want to, maybe I have like some of these floral buttons I might decide to place down and glue there. I might play with it a little more, not sure. But, you know, this is where you guys can get creative. You can embellish it further, you can leave it as it is. And I think that's just where I'm going to stop with this for now. One of the things that I may not have covered is at the top of this journal card here, and this came in my 7 Gypsies journal pack. If you guys didn't get this image in your journal pack and you really have to have it, please send me an email, let me know, because I do know that the junk packs all varied, and so everybody might have something a little bit different in your junk pack from 7 Gypsies. So just let me know. At the top here I had found in my mom's studio, because when I had originally created this, I was in her studio. Now I'm back in my studio. Yay! I can find things. Anyway, I just took some brads and attached it with some brads there, but you could use like the Tim Holtz. He's got some of the ideology bands with the words, and you could use those you know, at the top of whatever image you choose to use there. And again, if you don't have this particular image, just shoot me an email, and like I said, I will be sure to send that to you. Okay guys, so I guess on to the last part of section 1, and then we're done. I do plan on, I have other parts of this journal done, and I don't want to show you yet. I want to kind of surprise you guys. You think you might have seen some of what's about to come, and I can tell you that I ended up changing it a lot, so you guys have no idea what's to come after this. But I am working on the video editing, and I do hope to have the other part available in the next few days for you guys, so you can hopefully have fun crafting over the 4th of July weekend. In your email, you guys should have received this bonus image. What I did is I took tracing paper. Now, this particular tracing paper I found at Tuesday Morning, but you can find it at Walmart, Target. I think most places it's pretty easy to find some pads of tracing paper. They are sized usually around 9 by 12, so I had to cut it down to 8.5 by 11 to print through my printer. After I cut it, you know, the tracing paper is so thin that if you try to run it through your printer, it may jam. So to prevent it from jamming in my printer, I took a transparency, and you could pick this up at an office supply store. You could also adhere it to some cardstock or shinier cardstock. It's just a little harder to remove it because it tends to stick more to the cardstock. But that's what you could do if you didn't have a transparency on hand. And what I do is I just take a little bit of adhesive from my tape gun, and I just put like a little section here, here on the side to make sure that it grasps the side, a little down at this corner and this corner. You don't need too much. You don't want to have to struggle with pulling the tracing paper from the transparency or the cardstock because it's sticking too much. You just need it enough so the printer can pull it through, so it can grab it without it jamming. And then I just place the tracing paper over the transparency, and I run it through my printer. Okay, so after you print it out, then you would pull it from the transparency, and basically what I did is I just adhered some homemade washi tape to the edge here, and I will show you in the video tutorial how you can make your own washi tape. And that's basically it for the first part. So hopefully, along with my description of the steps that I took as well as the video tutorials, you guys will have been able to easily follow along. Again, if you have any questions, please send me an email, and I hope you guys all had a great time.